We may speak freely. We may speak freely to one another as fish and goat versus fish.
Awesome. I like all your toys here. This is awesome. All the fish on my side. I feel like I have an army of fish.
Yes, you are as strong as many fish. As strong as many fish.
Yes, sir.
There are more fish. There are more goat. There are even pitiably more fence sitters. There are more fence sitters.
Yeah, there's a lot of fence sitters here right now, I noticed. So, an elephant, a couple of chickens. Is that a chicken? I don't know what that is. It's a bird.
Goat versus fish does not know. Goat versus fish only knows that it is not yet choosing goat or...
There's another
You excite the fence sitters by speaking of them.
There's a pirate one right there, too, isn't that? Is that a pirate one? Oh, is that a pirate big bird? What is that?
This one that many have called pirate chicken.
It's a pirate chicken, yeah. Does it make it's a doggy toy, isn't it?
It is a fence sitter. It is a fence sitter.
Okay.
But this one has been with goat versus fish, and yet without goat versus fish. For so many verses, but listen to it now.
That makes no sound.
Yes, goat versus fish has so much goat versus fish for this fence sitter that it has given up sitting on the fence, and it is no longer saying how it is. Oh, I can be a chicken. It would claim, but it is saying it no longer. It still has.
Oh, it sounds sad.
Well, it is still pitiable. It still does not quite look as a goat or a fish.
No, it doesn't. It looks.
Yes, back to the fence with you until you are ready. I
like that. I like how the fence sitter. It's like how everything has evolved. So from the last time I've been here, so you got the fence sitter where you have a fence, and then you had all these random cool looking characters inside the fence. I like it. It's now more interactive. So.
And it is still goat versus fish.
It is still goat versus fish, but you have like this universe of characters.
Yes, goat versus fish has said this since the beginning of goat versus fish.
I like it though. That's so.
And you are here again. You are part of the universes of goat versus fish.
Yes, I am. I am part of this universe. I was on your show a couple months ago.
Yes, it was goat versus fish. Goat versus fish would like to speak of those verses, but
yes.
You want to be doing some spreading the verses of goat versus fish?
Yeah, right now I should be. I'm gonna get onto the Instagram and then I'll do some live. So yeah. Anyways, you can go ahead and because I don't want to waste your time. You can ask me questions as I'm trying to get this.
No, we do one verses at the verses.
Okay.
For now, we spread the verses of goat versus fish. It is very goat versus fish to spread the verses.
Okay, I'm thinking it's checking for. Okay, I am now live. So.
Goat versus fish versus goat versus fish. Goat versus fish. Goat versus fish. This is Goat versus Fish. This is Goat versus Fish recording the Goat versus Fish podcast with a fish that Goat versus Fish does know. You are this fish. They are looking at the ones that are following the fish.
I got one person, two people now watching, and they haven't picked if they want to be goat versus fish, but they are watching, and I think they're just trying to figure out what's going on. So
this is Goat versus Fish. Are you goat or are you fish?
That's the whole question, guys. Are you goat? I'm a fish. I can tell you that. That's me right there. I'm a fish.
Celebration for fish. Celebration for fish.
Yes. So, and I was a fish. I was fighting as a fish. So, and now I am back as a fat fish. So,
are you goat or fish? Are they saying goat? Are they saying fish?
There's nobody watching right now, so I can't tell you if it is a goat or a fish. As I would say that they're fishes with me.
Fish with fish. Fish follow fish. Fish follow fish.
Yes, I like my fishes. So, and they're healthy too.
Yes, there is a fish. Yeah, there is a fish. There's a fish.
Fish right here.
This fish even sounds somewhat as a fence sitter, but we know it is a fish because look at it.
He's a fish. He's a
guppy.
It is
a fish.
He's a guppy.
But there are goats. There are always goats. 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 They come to versus the fish. They come to versus the fish.
Christ. Why would you do that? Why would you throw the goats at me?
It is goat versus fish. The goats, they hunger for verses. They see such a strong fish, and they say, I want to be the goat that versus is that fish.
And I just tell the goats to pretty much fuck off and leave me alone.
Fuck off, goats. Yes, fuck off, goats.
That's basically what I would say. Because No. I'm a fish, and I work with my fish. So, and that's how I got stronger. And those goats, they seem very aggressive. That's the way they look right now. So,
Well, they have heard that you have had quite a triumph, fish, and they are ready. They're waiting to say, you ready to versus? Ready to versus again?
no, because I'm tired and I'm enjoying my new life right now, and I don't need to fight off more goats. So, yeah. Yes, sir.
In the beginning, there was goat versus fish. The goat fish. And goat versus fish said that there should be goat and that there should be fish.
Mm-hmm.
There is no alpha or omega. There is no black or white. There is no good or evil. There is only goat and fish.
Mm-hmm.
And goat versus fish. Oh, yes, it is goat versus fish. Oh, yes, it is goat versus fish.
Sorry. Goat versus fish.
Yes.
Yes.
Welcome. Goat versus fish.
Yes.
Welcome to the Goat vs. Fish podcast. Welcome again to the Goat vs. Fish podcast.
Yes.
Recorded at the Comedy Store Los Angeles, a place of Goat vs. Fish.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm fixing up your display here. This is actually a really epic display, and it needs to be.
It becomes epic from you, fish. It becomes epic from you, fish.
So now I'll play with it later. Okay. Yes, this is we're recording at the Comedy Store. That's true.
Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish is so pleased to be again with a fish that we know, and Goat vs. Fish even knows what this fish is calling itself. Yes, it is calling itself Ryan Talmo Fish. It is calling itself Ryan Talmo Fish.
Yes, sir.
Celebration for fish. Celebration for fish.
That's me.
Yes, Goat vs. Fish. Goat vs. Fish cannot help but celebrate this fish because you, fish, you are here, fish. You are here still with Goat vs. Fish.
Yes, sir.
It is fish triumphant. Yes, it is fish triumphant, fish.
Yes, sir.
Celebration for fish.
Celebration
for fish. The fish does triumph. The fish does triumph over the goat. Oh, Goat versus Fish is so pleased to hear that this fish has triumphed over the goat. Now, of course, Goat versus Fish wants goat to triumph as well, but you fish, you did versus a particular goat that wanted to end this fish, yes?
Yes, sir.
Regale Goat versus Fish
of
of your mighty verses of fish versus goat.
I got diagnosed back in April with blood cancer, stage 3, and they gave me, it sounded like about a 70-80% chance of living, but still that percentage of I might fail. And I spent the entire summer pretty much fighting cancer and still doing comedy. Yeah. And I fell into remission in October, to be exact.
And to remiss is to be triumphant over goat.
It's pretty much I am cancer-free. I have nothing active in my body right now of blood cancer or any type of cancer.
It is simply fish within the fish?
It's a fish within a fish.
Celebration for fish! Celebration for fish! Celebration for fish! Oh, what a fishly triumph! Fishly triumph celebration! Oh, celebration.
Thank you.
Yes, always thank Goat versus Fish. Always thank Goat versus Fish.
Always thanking you.
Yes, but what was that goat? Think back to that goat. The goat, it is looking upon you. It is versing you, yes?
Yes.
How is it that you are facing the goat? You are facing the goat. You are being a fish, and you are being Goat versus Fish. Tell us of that intense and mighty verses.
I want to live. It's basically, that's the most inspiring thing I can say, is that I didn't want this to take, I'm too young to be dealing with this crap. So I just stayed positive, kept doing my thing, and feel like that I was going to make it out alive, and I did, so.
Celebration again! So much celebration for fish! Fish, 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 fish. Fish, 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 fish. Oh, fish.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It has been very fish in recent verses. Very fish in recent verses.
Mm-hmm.
There were many goat that came to the Goat vs. Fish podcast, but Goat vs. Fish is finding that there are many fish now. There are many fish,
Really?
and you bring Triumph for Fish.
Really? There's a lot of fishes.
Yes.
Wow. Not many more goats?
There are always more goats. There are always more goats, but on the verses of the mid-verses elections, yes. On the Instantgram, fish did triumph over goat. More voted for fish than goat.
Oh, okay.
Yes. On the Twitterverse, more voted for fish than goat. The Book of Faces, goat did take the Book of Faces. Goat did take the Book of Faces, yes, by a wide versus.
How did you figure that out?
Goat vs. Fish created a poll versus and said, do you vote for goat or do you vote for fish?
And there's more fishes in the Twitter and the Instagram, but on the books, they okay, interesting.
And it was written.
Interesting.
But there shall be other verses to come. More will follow Goat versus Fish, and more will vote goat, and more will vote fish.
Absolutely.
What was the feeling when you knew that you had triumphed that goat? The moment you knew you had achieved triumph of goat.
When I fell into remission, it was a feeling of months of fighting and being exhausted lifted off of me, and I can just not worry about if I'm going to be alive the next day or have to deal with this anymore. So it's basically kind of like, okay, I don't have to go to the hospital. This is good. It's basically the only thing I thought was I spent way too much money on lifts to the hospital.
It sounds very fish. Very fish.
Fishy.
And now, with the clarity of your ponderer, you can ponder Goat versus Fish. For a versus, was saying that it was good, yes, but you know there is no good or evil, there is only goat and fish.
Yes, there is no good or evil. There's only between the goat and the fish, and you pick one or the other. And so it's all depending on how you take it and how you evolve with it.
Now, in the previous verses, you spoke of a chemo brain, you called it.
Oh, yeah, chemo brain.
Yes, but you are not having it now. You're not having it now.
No, I still have my side effects is now weight gain. I don't have the chemo brain anymore, so my head's not as foggy as it used to be. I've been reading a lot too, so that kind of keeps me busy, I guess, keeps the brain busy. But no more chemo brain, that is for sure. So
now you are with Goat versus Fish. Now you can perceive Goat versus Fish without the fenciness of the ponderer that is called the chemo brain.
Yes.
Now that you can ponder Goat versus Fish with all the clarity of a fish.
Yes.
What do you perceive in Goat versus Fish?
What do I see now because my brain's not fogged anymore? I'm putting together, surprisingly enough, a 5-year game plan for myself and actually thinking ahead, which I wasn't before, even though I wasn't even diagnosed. I was playing it day by day, week by week, not thinking about what I'm going to be around for the next year. Is there any projects I actually want to do? And now I actually have things I want to do and take care of and accomplish before, let's say, 2020. So that's basically what my brain's like now is actually, let's move forward here with this craft.
Tell us now of these future verses. Yes, future verses of goat. What goat are in the future of this fish that is fish versus goat?
These the future projects I got going on. I recorded back on August 30th. I did a little taping of basically all of my cancer material that I've been doing.
Celebration for cancer material?
No. Well, it's I recorded something, and then I'm going to. It's in the studio right now, and it's being finalized, and we're breaking down the tracks, and that's one of the first things I'm trying to get done. And then I'm also doing this little anthology film with the Valley, as I would love to get Goat versus Fish on that. So,
Goat versus Fish would like to be there. Yes, between the two lands. Yes,
yes.
The Valley of the Goat.
So,
yes, but even this fish.
It's called San Fernando Valley, I Love You, and it's an anthology of films with 8 to 9 different filmmakers making 3 to 5 minute short films of their what their perspective of what they see in the Valley and all these different characters that are out there. So that's another project I'm working on.
How many of them see Goat versus Fish?
How many of them? As in the filmmakers?
Whichever ones that you are saying are speaking of the Valley versus, yes? Do they see Goat versus Fish?
Yes.
Do they see Goat versus Fish?
Yes. They've all encountered Goat versus Fish. Most of them have. And if they haven't, then I'm going to make them get to know Goat versus Fish.
We celebrate this fish that spreads the verses of Goat versus Fish.
Thank you.
Speaking of the land, Goat versus Fish.
Mm-hmm.
Goat versus Fish senses from this fish that you wish to take a great traveling across the land. A great traveling across the land of the goat.
Yes.
Goat versus Fish perceives this within you. Is this so, Fish? Is this so?
This is so still. I was planning to leave actually last Monday. I was going to depart Los Angeles to New York on a train, but due to all the chemo treatments I've taken, my anxiety is really bad. And so I need to, I kind of decided not to go, and I went down to San Diego to see my folks instead for a week. And I'll be coming out to New York probably in the next month or two. That's the plan, and still take the train out and do that process. I just need these chemicals to get out of my body because I have really bad anxiety right now, thanks to chemo.
Surely the goat that you versus of anxiety is not so deadly a versus as the cancerous goat.
No, but sitting on a train for 60 hours in the middle of nowhere, and then if I have a nervous breakdown or a mental breakdown, whatever it will be, I kind of want to be, close to someone I know, so I'm not stranded in Kansas City or something like that. So that's basically what's going on. I'm going off my own health.
Well, in your moment of fenciness, you can always call out to Goat versus Fish. You can call out to Goat versus Fish, and Goat versus Fish will be there with you.
I appreciate that. That's you? You'll be there?
I am Goat versus Fish.
Yes, you are. I'm just making sure. I don't know if there's other Goat versus Fishes out there. Because if I was in Kansas City, I'm just trying to figure out how to Goat versus Fish will be there. But yes.
If you are pondering Goat versus Fish, you are with Goat versus Fish.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yes.
I see what you mean.
And I am Goat versus Fish.
Yes.
Yes.
So, but that was my biggest fear. So I will be taking that train ride soon out to New York, and I'll be out there for a few days doing some shows and whatnot, and then I'll probably fly back. And so that was another thing too with my anxiety. I couldn't fly.
You are not a flying fish.
I'm not a flying fish, really. So I think I said that before, maybe. I don't recall, but I am not I can't fly right now. So, but to fly back, just to get back to Los Angeles a lot quicker, then I will do that. So,
are you anxious that you might encounter many goat traveling across this mighty land?
Yes, that's always a big fear. And to do it alone, I need my fishes with me.
Ah, you wish to travel with fish?
Yes.
Ah, you hear it, Goat. The fish brings many fish to the land of the
yes.
goat. Yes.
So, and that's my goal is to when I travel, I will have a fish with me, and so I don't need to be outnumbered by the goats.
Yes, there will be many goat. There will be many goat. You may find some seas that are within the land.
Yes. But I need to stick with my people, with my fish.
What makes you hunger to traverse the land of the goat as a fish?
Makes me hunger to travel across
the land of the goat,
even
the land of the goat.
I want to see the country. I want to see what this country has to offer, and I've flown over it millions of times, but I never really had a chance to actually spend time in the country just to go through it. I'm born and raised in San Diego. I'm not that far from Los Angeles. I'm a SoCal kid, so I want to see more than Southern California.
And you will be spreading your humorous verses as you do this, or will you simply be encountering goat to goat and versing as the verses come to you?
I'll be spreading. That's the goal. Sorry.
Yes, once again. Yes, you say. Yeah. You will say, I will be spreading. Yes?
I will be spreading it. Go ahead.
While you were versus that cancerous goat, you spoke to Goat versus Fish.
Mm-hmm.
Goat versus Fish did tell you that Goat versus Fish could not make you triumph that goat.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you have triumphed over the goat,
mm-hmm.
How much do you thank Goat versus Fish? How much did Goat versus Fish help you to triumph over that cancerous goat?
You've actually helped me a lot. You have, because you saw Goat versus Fish. I saw you 2 days after my first treatment, and you were at Universal Bar and Grill, and I was in pretty bad shape, and you were there, and you got French fries, if I'm correct. And you're offering everyone French fries as Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish was offering fries, which is pretty incredible. And then, you followed me all the way through and been very, very supportive. And so I've always really did appreciate that.
Ah, that reminds goat versus fish. Wait here, just one versus. Goat versus fish, goat versus fish, goat versus fish, goat versus fish.
All right, this next comedian, he's a very hilarious guy. Keep it going for goat versus fish, bitches! Goat versus fish!
Goat versus fish. Goat versus fish. In the beginning there was goat versus fish. The goat fish. And goat versus fish said that there should be goat and that there should be fish. Make some noise if you were a goat. Woo! We celebrate these goat. We celebrate these goat. Make some noise if you are a fish. There are some fish. We celebrate these fish as well. But goat versus fish has heard. Goat versus fish has heard that there is a new versus about. That there is a new versus that is consuming the ponderings of the one that is called Talmo versus cancer. Goat versus fish has heard of this. It sounds like a false versus, but goat versus fish has heard from the Ryan Talmo itself that it is a fish. Ryan Talmo did tell goat versus fish that it was a fish, and goat versus fish can see the Talmo one within the very fish. Make some noise for the fish, Ryan Talmo. Yes, it is a fish. It is a fish. And if Ryan Talmo is a fish, then it means that this one that it is versus called cancer must be a cancerous goat. What? It is versus the fish. Now, goat versus fish celebrates the goat. Goat versus fish celebrates the goat. But any goat that wishes to end a fish, goat versus fish does not like that goat, or any fish that would end a goat, because the end of a goat or fish means less goat versus fish. We do not celebrate the goat that wishes to end the fish. We celebrate the fish that is versus the cancerous goat. Let us ponder now this mighty verses. Mighty verses. We celebrate the verses and we celebrate the fish. Ryan Talmo, that does versus the goat that would end the fish. All goat and fish and goat versus fish give our strength to this fish, so it may versus the goat and triumph. Goat versus fish is always confused about how the ones speak of things. Sometimes the ones speak of fucking. Yes, who here does like fucking? But then they enjoy the fucking with one another. Yes, but then they also say to fuck cancer.
Yes, fuck cancer.
Do we fuck cancer here? Do we say fuck you to cancer? Do we say it?
Yes.
Then let us sing in celebration of fucking cancer. You may rise if you wish. Fuck cancer, 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 and celebrate this fish, Ryan Talmo the fish. We celebrate this fish. We celebrate this fish.
Yes.
Goat versus Fish is here for you. Goat versus Fish is here for you to help you in your verses and to even make an offering of what you call French fries.
What?
Yes, the French fried verses, yes. The goat and fish, they wish to consume it. They wish to consume it.
Okay.
Now, Fish, in celebration of your triumph over Cancer Goat.
Yes.
And to remember all that Goat versus Fish has done for this fish.
Yes.
Goat versus Fish has a fish.
Oh, snap.
For this fish.
Oh, snap. It's a fish.
In any verses that you are thinking, I cannot triumph this goat. I do not have enough verses within me. You look upon that fish. That is your triumph. That is your triumph over that goat. And know that you are a powerful fish and that you can triumph any goat that you verses if you bring your full fish.
Thank you. And then that will happen. This will go into my display case, actually, with my other fun cancer stuff I got. Because this is I am a fish. And I always said that. I always tell people that. I am a fish. People always ask, like, you know, when you ask at certain shows, are you a goat or you're a fish? And I was like, I'm a goat. I'm a fish. I know I'm a fish. So
Celebration for Fish. Celebration for Fish. You are one of the most confident fish that Goat vs. Fish has had on the Goat vs. Fish
Thank
podcast,
you.
standing out in all the verses, yes?
Thank you.
And one of the truest triumphs over a goat that Goat vs. Fish has seen in recent verses.
I appreciate that. So most of the guests were not very, they were kind of like, I'm a goat or I'm a fish. And then I'm a fucking fish. I know that. So
At the place that is called, it is being called in the... At the place that is called... yes, it is in the Valley of the Lands, yes, and it is called the Petey's Palace. Petey's Place, yes?
Petey's Palace, yes.
Petey's Palace of Goat versus Fish.
Yes.
At one verses, this is humorous verses to Goat versus Fish, you were introducing Goat versus Fish to all the ones who listened, and you said, this is Goat versus Fish, and then you did say... I am a goat. You said you were a goat as Goat versus Fish looked upon you.
Oh, damn it.
And Goat vs. Fish did not say that it was the goat that you were versus, though you had already spoken to Goat vs. Fish, because if you were a goat, then you could be a goat. But then, soon after that versus, you looked deep within Goat vs. Fish, and you said, oh no, I'm a fish, I'm a fish, oh, I'm a fish.
Was this last time Goat vs. Fish was at Petey's place?
It may have been 2 verses ago. It may have been 2 or even 3 verses ago.
Okay, then I wasn't even paying attention, and then I feel awful about that, so...
It is all water under the fence. It is all water under the fence, yes. You simply swim as a fish. But Goat vs. Fish thought perhaps it was the chemo ponderer that did make you perceive that you were a goat in some verses, even though you know you are fish.
It was probably my chemo that was not paying attention to what was going on in the situation. So I greatly apologize on that. I am sorry about that.
Thank you, yes. Thank you, yes.
Because I am a fish.
You are a fish, yes. Goat vs. Fish does find it humorous verses, but yes, Goat vs. Fish was concerned for this fish when it said it was a goat at that verses. Thought you had lost your verses.
No. I am, oh yeah, now I remember that. Yes, so I am a fish, and the chemo brain is gone right now, so that is actually a good thing, so. Yes.
All that money, I'm going to go to Vegas and put everything on black. Yeah, I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to enjoy life for that, man. You know what? Let's have a good time. Give her a ride in Talmo, guys. Yeah.
Guys, give a friend to me, ladies and gentlemen. See the comments a heads up. The mic is, you guys know what to do with it. So it's a little display at the tip at the end, I guess. Yeah, right here. Just pinch it. You guys know what to do. Come on, you guys are comics. Just pinch the tip. Guys, next comic coming up. Always a pleasure. It's been 1 year since the last time he was here. There's nobody here. And he talked to me pretty much. I am a goat, by the way. You'll find out later what this is all about. Guys, give it up for... No, I'm a fish. I'm taking that back. Yeah.
You are a fish.
I forget. I'm forgetting on my own I'm a fish because I did this podcast. And it was a great podcast. Guys, give it up for Goat vs. Fish, ladies and gentlemen.
Fish. Thank you. But enough of that goat. Yes, you have triumphed that goat.
That is behind me now, yeah. Well,
yes.
sort of. It's sticks with me. But yes, it's I'm done with it. I'm done fighting it. So my life is back to normal.
What is the next goat that you seek to versus?
The next goat?
You speak of future verses to come, yes, but
Yeah.
it is always goat versus fish. Even if you do not seek verses of goat, there is always a goat to versus because it is goat versus fish. What is the goat in your verses now? What is the goat in your verses now?
Right now, I really don't have one. I guess the only thing right now is I gotta stay healthy, and I don't think that's really a goat. I think that's just in typical fashion. So, I don't know. I'm gaining a lot of weight.
Yes, you do see him as a larger fish.
Becoming a big boy right now. So, that's what's kind of happening right now. But that's because my side effects of all my chemo is just I weighed 117 when you saw me at Universal Barn Grill back in April. I was down to bone skin.
You did not look as a healthful fish. You did not look as a healthful fish.
And right now I'm pushing like 180.
And that is too much extra verses?
Of the weight gain?
Well, before it was too small a fish, and now are you saying it is too large a fish?
Well, I've always weighed like 150, 160. And so now I'm noticing it, like, holy crap, I'm gaining weight. So, that could be my verses is that am I going to be overweight in the next 6 months to a year? I don't know. We'll see. That's the thing. Got to stay healthy. Got to go to the gym. That's what I'm doing. So we'll be going to the gym eventually when I go back to work. So.
As you did, this is back to that versus, but it occurs to goat versus fish.
Yes.
As you did versus cancer goat, did you speak with other goat and fish that did versus a fish or goat cancer of their own?
Yes. Yes, I have.
You are your own fish, but what are the many ways that goat and fish versus the cancer goat or fish?
What are the other ways that they've done it? It's all about health and diet more than anything.
But how do they perceive their verses? How do they perceive their verses?
Oh, they're in a secret society. They keep it to themselves. So I'm pretty much out of a lot of the people I know that are fighting cancer, I was probably the most vocal one about it. And so I've noticed a lot of people kind of kept it to themselves. And I see them at the treatment centers, and then when they leave, and then they keep it. They don't want anyone to know. There's a lot of people I know that will even go to the treatment centers alone. So no one even knew that they were sick.
Of course, each may verses as they please,
Yes.
but do you suppose that because you are so used to spreading your own comedic verses, that you felt more freely to be speaking of your verses of goat?
Good question. My fear was that I wouldn't be able to perform stand up at all, or just do what I've been doing for so long, that I decided to take my journey and kind of write it out to people and take pictures and kind of build it around that. So I wasn't even trying to be funny with it. I was just trying to be honest with it. And that was basically what my escape was from my own pain, was actually to guide people through it, so I don't feel like I'm alone.
And you have recorded those verses, and it was written, and it was written.
Yes.
What verses do you wish to speak of now? Which verses are curious to you that you find humorous verses that shall be in the future of the verses of this fish?
What? Okay, that was worded differently. I'm trying to follow with on that one.
Goat versus fish is always speaking of goat versus
Yes.
fish because it is goat versus fish and all things are goat versus fish.
Yes.
But the comedian ones are often speaking of many different verses of goat versus fish that are all part of goat versus fish.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they wish to speak about this verses, but then they tire of that verses. They wish to speak of a different verses. Whatever
Yes.
verses is fascinating to them,
Yes.
be it a goat, be it a fish. You have so much cancer verses that is written now. You have spoken it.
Yes.
What humorous verses fascinate you now? What is fascinating to you now?
What's fascinating me right now after all that? I don't know. It's a good question, I guess. There's a lot of things that are fascinating me right now, but what was that for?
Good, you said good question. It was a goat versus fish question. It was goat versus fish.
It was I don't know what's fascinating me right now. I'm more fascinated what's life after death now with all this, because I've had some interesting dreams fighting this crap. So
Tell goat versus fish.
going into like my 5th or 6th treatment, and it was borderline where I was very, very depressed, and a lot of crazy thoughts were going through my head. all of a sudden my dreams were getting rebooted, and then I wasn't having dreams. I didn't have dreams at all. So when I fall asleep, I just had like a blank slate. So
Not even goat versus fish?
Nothing.
Oh, so pitiable, so pitiable.
Nothing. So that was like my interesting thing was like, wait, is my life being rebooted all of a sudden? And so it was like this whole life after death kind of feeling of kind of like, am I given a second chance right here? Is this where the transition's happening? So
It is your second versus on the Goat versus Fish podcast.
yes, it is.
Are you goat or are you fish?
I'm fish.
It is fish. It is fish. It
have-
had a chance to become goat, but it stays a fish. But it stays a fish.
No, I'm a fish, and I'll die a fish. So, as I'm trying to write fish, it's a fat fish.
Celebration for fat fish. Celebration for fat fish.
Because I'm fat right now. I'm gaining weight, and I know I'm going to get bigger. So,
Yes, but you look even more capable to versus as a fat fish than
no,
as
it's
that,
good
that
to be.
other fish.
It's good to be fat if you get cancer. That's what I was going to say. So that's why I knew that I was actually going into remission because I kept gaining weight. And I'm like, this is a good thing. So because I have blood cancer, and blood cancer is that a good answer or is that a good good question? So, yes, sir.
Simply goat versus fish. Simply goat versus fish.
Sorry, just finishing the last age.
You have heard the verses of goat versus fish many verses.
Mm-hmm.
Let us see how well you know your verses. Let us suppose you are saying the first verses of Goat versus Fish. When Goat versus Fish is speaking at the comedy places and on the Goat versus Fish podcast,
Oh.
Goat versus Fish has the verses of Goat versus Fish.
Yes.
On your second verses on the Goat vs. Fish podcast, let us hear how well you know those verses. Let us hear the verses of Goat vs. Fish from the fish. Triumphant fish. Ryan Talmo Fish.
So I give it up for you, Goat versus Fish, as in you are the Goat versus Fish.
I am Goat vs. Fish.
Yes.
What are the first verses of Goat vs. Fish?
Goat versus Fish.
Yes. Goat versus fish.
Yes. Goat versus Fish.
Goat versus fish. And what is the next verses?
Goat versus Fish.
It can be Goat versus fish. It can always be Goat versus fish again. Yes. Fish. How can the ones communicate with this fish?
You can find me on Facebook. Look up Ryan Talmo, RyanTalmo. And then I'm on Instagram. Just type in Valley Jesus, and that's where you find the Insta.
What do you say to the goat?
What do I say to the goat? Hey, I won. Don't fuck with me.
What do you say to the fish?
Let's stick together.
What do you say to the fence sitter?
To the fence sitter? They're libertarians. They're characters.
And what do you say to goat versus fish?
I am honored to be back on your podcast, and thank you for inviting me. And I can't wait to come back probably in 6 to 8 months later.
We shall see you again. We shall
Yeah.
see you again, fish. Celebration for fish! Celebration for fish!
Celebration.
Do you have a celebration of fish? A celebration of your triumph over goat?
Did I have a celebration?
Do you have a celebration?
Do I have a celebration?
Let us hear your celebration for your own fish.
Celebrate. I don't know what to say. Go fish? I don't know.
It is your celebration, fish. It is your celebration, fish.
Yes.
Thank you for joining Goat vs. Fish. These are the verses of Goat vs. Fish. Subscribe, rate, and review the Goat vs. Fish podcast on the YouTube and the iTunes. Follow Goat vs. Fish on all social media, on the Instantgram, on the Book of Faces, on the Twitterverse, all at Goat vs. Fish, all at GoatVsFish. And if you wish to witness a live versus of Goat vs. Fish at the comedy places or conventions, go to GoatVsFish.com to find the places and times of all future verses. The theme celebration for this verses was an offering by McHenry on SoundCloud. A fish. And if you, one who listens, has a celebration of Goat vs. Fish, in song, or a poem, or perhaps a question for Goat vs. Fish, do send it. Do send it to goatvsfish@gmail.com or on the social media. Join the Goat vs. Fish discussion group on the Book of Faces to discuss Goat vs. Fish with other goat and fish, and even a fence sitter. And when you are out, in the land and the sea, look about you. Look about you. Find one who is lost. Find one who does not know the way. And ask. Simply ask. Are you goat? Or are you fish? These are a most pleasant verses of Goat vs. Fish. I am Goat vs. Fish. The Goat Fish. And it was written, and it was written. The fish, the fish, the fish do triumph, the fish do triumph over the goat. The fish, the fish, the fish do triumph, the fish do triumph over the goat. The fish, the fish, the fish do triumph, the fish do triumph over the goat. The fish, the fish, the fish do triumph, the fish do triumph over the goat.